When Emily first stepped onto the glittering grounds of the Monaco Grand Prix, no one gave her a second glance. Just another face in the crowd, dressed in a simple white shirt and jeans, dwarfed by the roar of engines and the shimmer of designer suits. All around her, the elite mingled billionaires, celebrities, and racing legends swapping stories over champagne flutes. To them, she was invisible. They didn't know that under that quiet smile hid something they could never buy: pure passion and an impossible dream. Emily had spent years building her dream supercar in a dusty old garage behind her tiny house. She didn't have sponsors or a famous last name, only scraped knuckles, late nights, and an engine that purred like nothing the Formula One world had ever heard. But that day in Monaco, nobody cared. Some even laughed when they saw her roll up to the pit lane in a car she had built with her own two hands. Whispers spread. Who does she think she is? A simple woman playing with the big boys. But Emily didn't flinch. She tightened her ponytail, checked her gauges, and ignored the smirks. She knew her car wasn't just fast, was a masterpiece born from sacrifice and sleepless nights. As the race announcer's voice boomed across the track, the sneers turned into silence, engines fired up. Emily gripped the wheel, her heart pounding louder than the grandstands above. When the lights went green, but no one expected what happened next. In seconds, Emily's home-built beast tore past million-dollar machines, leaving jaws on the asphalt. But just as she gained on the lead car, a sudden sound crackled in her headset, a warning she never wanted to hear. What happened next would decide if her dream soared or shattered in front of the entire world. Emily's hands tightened around the wheel as the voice in her headset repeated, "Engine temperature rising. You need to slow down." But slowing down wasn't an option. Not now. Not when every eye in the pit lane was fixed on her simple car overtaking the world's most expensive machines. She could almost hear the gasps over the roar of her custom-built engine. For years, she had watched these races on a tiny TV in her garage, oil stains on her clothes and big dreams in her head. Now, she was the story. Back home, people who knew. Emily would have laughed if someone told them she'd be racing at a Formula One event. She was the quiet girl at the auto shop, fixing old trucks for pennies, saving every extra cent to buy scrap parts. Her neighbors called her the dreamer, but never really believed in what she was doing. Even her parents thought it was just a phase. But for Emily, cars were never just metal. They were freedom, escape, and the only thing that made sense when nothing else did. She had spent nights studying blueprints she downloaded for free. She learned about aerodynamics by taping pieces of cardboard to old bicycles and riding down empty roads. Every part of her car told a story of stubborn hope in engine block pulled from a junkyard. Turbochargers, she modified herself, and a body shape she designed to cut through air like a knife. Her hands knew every bolt and wire better than she knew her own reflection. But here, in the middle of Formula One's brightest stage, her homemade masterpiece was in danger. The warning light blinked angrily on her dashboard, threatening to end everything she'd worked for. And somewhere in the crowd, the same people who mocked her were now watching closely, waiting to see if the dreamer's dream would blow up right before the finish line. Emily forced herself to breathe as the engine's warning light flickered like a heartbeat about to give out. She knew every sound her supercar made, and this faint rattle deep under the roar, wasn't part of her plan. But if she slowed down now, everything she'd sacrificed would mean nothing. Behind her, a sleek red car worth millions was gaining fast, its driver, one of the top names in Formula One. Someone who had laughed openly when she rolled into the paddock that morning. He was hungry to reclaim his pride in the pit lane. Emily's old friend Marcus watched the race unfold on a flickering monitor. He was the only mechanic who ever believed in her. He'd skipped working for big racing teams to help her build This car in secret, using borrowed tools and spare parts from scrapyards. Now he watched helplessly, gripping his headset, his eyes darting between the screen and the engineers whispering behind him. They didn't want Emily there. Some had even tried to block her entry, saying she'd embarrass the sport. Marcus knew she'd already proved them wrong if her engine didn't betray her first dot back on the track. The crowd's cheers faded into a blur. Emily could feel the vibrations under her seat, every bolt and weld fighting against the heat. She remembered nights when she'd fallen asleep on the cold garage floor next to this car, waking up with fresh ideas to make it lighter, faster, stronger. She thought of the sponsorship deal she'd risked everything to get, small, but enough to cover travel and fuel. Now the sponsors were watching too, their faith hanging by a thread. Inside the elite team's garage, the rival driver's manager barked orders into a radio, determined to box Emily in on the next lap. They couldn't stand the thought of a simple woman with no team, no pedigree, and no billion-dollar budget outpacing them in front of the world. As the next corner approached, Emily tightened her grip, eyes darting between the burning dashboard and the mirror showing her rival closing in. She whispered to her car like an old friend, just a little further. Just hold on. But deep down, she knew something was about to give. Emily's heart raced faster than her supercar as she pushed through the next turn, the tires screaming against the asphalt. The rival car behind her edged closer, its engine snarling like a predator ready to strike. She glanced at her mirror. Only inches separated them now. But then, through the crackle of her headset, Marcus's voice cut in, shaky and urgent. "Emily, listen, someone tampered with the coolant line. If you keep pushing, you could blow the whole engine." For a split second, her focus slipped. Sabotage. She'd expected mockery, maybe dirty tricks on the track, but someone deliberately trying to end her race from the inside? The thought made her stomach twist. She couldn't prove it now, but deep down, she knew it was possible. She'd seen the way some of the elite drivers looked at her like an unwelcome guest in their private kingdom. They didn't care how much sweat and love she'd poured into her homemade supercar. They just wanted her gone. As she wrestled the wheel through another tight bend, a new problem flared smoke. Just a faint wisp at first, but enough to tell her the engine wasn't bluffing this time. She had two choices: slow down and lose everything she'd fought for, or risk the car she'd built with her own hands exploding right under her. Meanwhile, in the rival team's pit, the manager's eyes darted to a quiet figure in the back, someone Emily had trusted with her car's final checks that morning. Marcus's voice crackled again, sharper now. "They wanted you to fail, Em. But if anyone can hold this together, it's you." Emily's pulse hammered as she felt the rivals' bumper brush hers, a silent warning that they were ready to shove her off the track if she didn't get out of the way. But Emily wasn't ready to be pushed anywhere. As she shifted gears, the roar of her engine mixed with the furious cheers of the crowd. Her dashboard flashed red. The rival car nudged closer, metal almost kissing metal. Somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "Either you break the limits, nor they break you." And in that moment, Emily made her choice, even as flames of doubt danced at the edge of her mind. Emily's eyes narrowed as the rival's car scraped dangerously close, trying to force her off the line. She could see his helmet turn, his grin hidden behind a tinted visor. He thought he had her cornered. An overheating engine, sabotage in her own team. And now this brutal game of pushing her off the track. But Emily had been fighting all her life. She wasn't about to lift her foot off the pedal now. She shifted down, coaxing every ounce of power from her handmade engine. The heat gauge flashed red, smoke trailing behind. But the roar under her told her one thing: her car still had fight left. She remembered every sleepless night, every bolt tightened until her fingers bled. This machine wasn't just a car, it was her story, and it wouldn't end here. With the final straight ahead, the rival driver made his move, trying to cut her off at the apex. But Emily braked at the last heartbeat, swung wide, and dove inside with impossible precision. The crowd erupted as she surged ahead, tires screaming, engine howling like it wanted to fly apart but refusing to die. Marcus's voice broke through the chaos. "That's it, Emily. Bring it home." The finish line loomed closer, the rival's engine roaring behind her like an angry storm. For a heartbeat, time froze, smoke pouring from her hood. The world blurring past, her dream balanced on a single breath. Then, with a final push, she crossed the line seconds ahead. The grandstands exploded in disbelief. Emily screamed, half laughter, half tears, as her car coasted to a trembling stop. She'd done it. The simple woman had beaten the elite at their own game. Reporters rushed forward, sponsors already dialing her number. But as she pulled off her helmet, she spotted the quiet mechanic, the one who'd betrayed her, slipping away through the chaos. She should have felt rage, but instead, she smiled. Let him run. She'd already proven that no sabotage, no smirk from the elite could stop her. And as she stepped out of her smoking masterpiece, the crowd chanting her name, Emily knew the real race had only just begun. Because the world had seen what she could do with nothing, and now, with everyone watching, she was